when you have those other content channels, you transcend being just a band, and that actually gets people to talk about you. We've talked about this before, where there's so much music out there, I can choose between 30,000 different death metal bands on Spotify. I get a lot of questions about this, and I kind of wanted to get into it, and this is sort of my content creation strategy, because I put out a lot of content. I put out like 4 or 5 pieces of content a day, on top of social media posts, etc., etc. And this also is my strategy, not what I'm also doing for labels or whatever, and bands and everything. But you could transfer it, and I kind of wanted to give you guys a bit of an insight into kind of how my brain processes a lot of this stuff. Every day, I release a Bacon's Bit, I do a podcast, I do a, full podcast is only weekdays. I do an Instagram or Facebook Live. I do a blog post on my blog, 2 Guys Metal Reviews. So that's my daily content. Then I have twice weekly music industry articles. I have these videos that come out once a week, the long form YouTube videos. I have, I do a fair amount of I get interviewed a fair amount. I have the radio show. I have articles I write for Metal Injection, which is once a week, maybe twice a week. That's 9 places I have content coming in. Off the top of my head, there's probably something else I'm forgetting about, because I'm just pushing content consistently. Why? I want to stay in people's faces, right? Because there's 4 things that come out every day and 9 things that come out on at least, in most of those cases, at least a weekly basis. I'm constantly around, I'm constantly creating content, I'm pushing more content than pretty much anyone else in sort of the underground metal world. And so this means that I'm able to get a lot more attention. So yeah, it's diversified a little bit, and like maybe some channels don't do as well as others. Maybe the YouTube doesn't do as well as the Instagram, and maybe the lives don't do as well as the radio show. But it doesn't matter, because it's all about creating a ton of content and appreciating how people consume different types of content. And you kind of have to play with that in mind. I think that's a really big issue a lot of people face, is that they're not creating content at scale, and they're not creating content across a variety of platforms, and you think as a band the only content you can create is music, but that's not true. You can make a podcast about your recording process or just what you're generally interested in. Lick King had a really good podcast like that for a while. You can do a radio show, it can be on Gimme Radio. It doesn't even have to be on on a proper radio platform. You can just put together a playlist of songs you like and share that. You can just, like, Spotify playlists in and of themselves are a great piece of content to push. As a band, you can write articles about your recording process, share that sort of stuff. You can do videos. It's not just music videos. A lot of people think the only video content they can do is video content. But you can do rehearsal videos. You can do, hey man, here's a music theory thing I learned. And one thing I really like about Bacon's Bits and educational videos is that when you have to teach someone something, it makes you understand it better, right? So if you learn a cool new thing on guitar, like pitch axis theory, and then you record a video saying, here's me using pitch axis theory with my band, that's really valuable and just something you can create, and like sort of the next level of content creation, because you're creating at scale and you're staying in people's faces. Or even like there's a lot of people who do Twitch streams. Someone who's amazing at this is Matt Heffy from Trivium. Has a huge variety of content things. A lot of it is video game centric. Why? Because his fans play a lot of video games. It's how he gets their attention, right? Other people, my friend Alan from Primordial writes a lot of articles. Some of it's about his political stuff, some of it's about the scene. Cool. People connect with that. They like having that. You have to create a huge variety of content to get attention at you. And then when you have those other content channels, you transcend being just a band, and that actually gets people to talk about you. We've talked about this before, where there's so much music out there, I can choose between 30,000 different death metal bands on Spotify, right? Cool. Okay, how do you become the death metal band who say interesting things about music theory? The black metal band who have interesting, like, nature facts that they share, the fucking funk band that shares cool things about their city and, like, their city life. And then when you create this content, it all fits your overall story, So when I'm creating these videos, for example, it's fitting my story, trying to be the person, my end goal is to be the person in the music industry who gives the most, period. Be it to bands, festival promoters, industry people, etc. I want to be the person who gives the most, right? And that, in turn, giving without expectation, brings a lot of value to me. So by making my whole focus just content creation, I'm able to get a lot of attention. And then the thing is, when you have a lot of content, people are able to kind of dig through. Once a week, twice a week, I'll get someone and I'll check my phone and I'll have 50 notifications from the same person because they watched all of the Bacon's Bits at once. You know what I mean? And that's really cool. There is a content universe out there for them to engage in. They can go look at old live videos. They can go listen to old podcasts. They can go listen to my radio show. You know, maybe not all of it is relevant to every person, but they can take what they want to take and share that and grow with that, right? So when you create content at scale, and it's hard, I probably spend 1 hour to 2 hours a day just creating content. This is in the middle of a 2-hour video session. Guess what? You grow, and you have to build that habit. You have to build that consistency, and that's a huge part of the content strategy for me is consistency, and it's something I have to whip myself over. But guess what? When you do it, when you grind out all that content, people start to pay attention. They start to grow. Grind out a ton of content across a ton of channels. People pay attention to a ton of different channels, which is why you need to be everywhere. And then you're going to kind of transcend, reach that next level.